All right, let's give it a try. I would ask that you guys bear with me. This is my very first live broadcast. I don't exactly know what I'm doing, but we will figure it out as we go along. I'd appreciate if somebody would let me know if you can hear me okay. We'll give a few minutes for people to join us. If you are curious about the sport of working equitation and simply don't know where to start, or if that's the sport that would fit well for you and your horse, this is the right place to come. We'll go over some basic introduction of the sport, talk about why it appeals to so many, and I'll be happy to take your questions about any aspect of the sport: showing, training, introducing your horse to it, volunteering at the shows, starting your own organization, anything that you might think of. I'm going to take this off because the glare is distracting me. There we go. Let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Lydia Taylor. I am currently a Confederation for Working Equitation technical delegate and L judge, learner's judge. I have been involved with the sport since 2016. I got my start in the state of Oklahoma. After a few lessons with Miss Taryn Warren, we did our first show, showed some since then, and I decided that this is my love and this is my passion, and that I would give time to the sport by becoming a judge. My general background is quite diverse, anything from draft horses shown on hand and a hitch and the farm classes, to traditional dressage and Western dressage. I myself show my personal horses 17 hand shy across, and that's what we show. So it truly is sport for everybody. So first, let's talk about what exactly is working equitation. This is a fairly new sport. The first international competition was held in 1996 in Europe, in the founding countries of France, Spain, and Portugal joined in shortly after. This is a working sport based on the working traditions of Southern European countries. As such, it's not discipline specific. Working traditions of every country have their own tech and attire. Australians will show in their stock saddles. French, German, Portuguese will show in English type saddles. Portuguese and Spanish have their own traditional Domo Vaquero saddles that they show in. When it comes to this country, the sport is open literally to any style of riding, which is wonderful. The sport consists of 3 main trials that you will encounter at every show, plus one more that you will find probably at the bigger shows. The main trials that you will encounter every time is dressage, and that's what exactly it sounds like. Just like the traditional dressage, there are written tests with levels, written in a small dressage court. Then we have ease of handling. In Europe, it's known a maniability trial, and this is the obstacle portion. And in this portion, the obstacle course is written for style to show off how well you can navigate the course, how obedient and supple and brave your horse is, how well he moves out and comes back. And there is also a speed trial, and this is the one that you've probably seen the most on YouTube and all other social media, because this is often most exciting aspect for the sport, of the sport for many. This is obstacle course again, but written purely for speed. The style doesn't matter, everything goes, anything goes, and that's what you often see. The signature look of the sport, I'm sure you've seen a rider carrying a long pole called garrocha, and spearing a ring on the obstacle. Usually the ring holder is cut out in the form or in the shape of a bull tooth, of course, coming from Southern Europe, the bullfights. The 4th trial that's a little harder to find still is a cattle trial, which is similar to team penning. The show management assigns teams into groups 3 or 4. There's a cattle in an open area, herd on one side with a foul line, And the task is for one rider to cut a designated steer, move it over the foul line, and then the team can help to move the steer to the pen and keep the rest of the herd back in the herd zone. The reason why the cattle trial is hard to find simply because due to organizational reasons. It's hard enough to have space and resources to set up dressage arena, then obstacles, 2 different obstacles courses often, and then also worry about the cattle. You will start seeing more of a cattle trial in the regional and the national championships, and also the facilities in the states where cattle work is more common. So they already set up for that. Hi, Shakara. Hi, Sarah. Now, why is it such a special sport? We already said that it's not discipline specific. And the truth is, it's really all inclusive. So whether you were a Western rider, you're welcome. Dressage, English, show jumping, if you've never shown before, there's no need to go buy any fancy show tech. Good working tech and good working order, neat and clean, works just fine. And that goes for English as well. If you ride generally English but you don't show, you don't have to buy show clothes. For example, I do show dressage, but when I show work in equitation, I just show black breeches, toe boots, button-down long sleeve shirt, and a vest, and a hat or helmet required. So I show in the helmet. The same goes for Western attire. Bling doesn't matter. I mean, if you have it, if that's the show tech you have, that's perfectly fine. But sparkles do not add to your score at all. Often distract from the harmonious picture. Hi, Sarah. Look at my notes so I can not miss anything. So we covered any discipline. And then in any breed of horse, often I get questions, well, my horse is such and such, can he show? Of course he can. My monster of 17 hand, 1,500-pound Chai Cross does fairly well at his level. Now there are a lot of warm bloods, draft horses, or even full drafts at the same time. The majority of horses in sport right now in the show circuit are quarter horses. There's a good amount of Andalusians, Lusitanos, and crosses of thereof. And you will see just about any other breed you can imagine. Frisians, Haflingers, Fjords. This is 2019 competition season, is the first season when the gaited horses can show without penalty. They can either be offered their own division if you have enough competitors, or if you're a single gaited horse in a smaller show, you will show right along other competitors, and instead of trot, you just perform whatever intermediate gait is correct for your breed. So for Passos, it'll be Largo, Foxtrotters, whatever they do. So it's not specified which gait, it's just intermediate for your particular breed. Hi, Betty. We have a question. At the rated working equitation show, I was told that I should be my dressage outfit, breeches, stock size jacket, tall boots. Rating is optional, but it adds to the presentation score. Rating is indeed optional. You do not have to show any particular style. I mean, if you already have dressage show outfit, you can show what many do, but the rules, what is in the rule book? The minimum required is breeches, pants, or riding skirt, appropriate footwear, which is usually boots, though some traditions require special half chaps, and some kind of head covering, either hat or helmet. You can wear a helmet without penalty at any level and any style of attire. You can wear a protective vest at any time. So this is absolutely not true that you must wear dressage attire. I don't, many others do not. My horse happens to be roached, but braiding, yes, no, many people do braid. A lot of Andalusian Lusitanos will do a running braid, which is appropriate for the breed. Western horses show just with a loose mane. If it's, as long as it's neat and tidy and doesn't distract from overall picture, it's perfectly acceptable. All right, Sarah's asking, could you explain about using the same tack across all 3 tests? If I ride ease of handling, close contact saddle, can I use a dressage saddle for my dressage test? No, you cannot. If you rode dressage and dressage saddle, this is the same saddle you're going to use for all 3 trials. Now you can change the saddle pad if it got sweaty, or you can change, if you're wearing English clothes, a shirt if it got dirty, but you may not change the tack, you may not change the type of bridle or the bit you use from trial to trial. So whatever you entered the arena in on the dressage trial, this is how you continue the rest of the show. All right. So we covered the gaited horses now allowed. Now, riders of all and horses of all levels very much welcome as well. In the US right now, we have 8 tests. Children, which is designed for children 8 to 13, and then levels 1 through 7. 7 being the international level, that's what WAVE competes, World Association of Work and Equitation, it's the same across the world. And our level 1 is walk trot. I have to say that US has the most, the largest number of tests, so accommodates the most levels of riders. In the walk trot test and the children test, which is also walk trot, you actually only have 2 trials. You do your dressage and ease of handling. There is no speed, obviously. If you're not cantering, there would be no speed. Let's see if we've got more questions. Hi, Pamela. Hi, Karen. Okay, so Biddy specified, so if she only rides dressage, yes, you could wear your dressage attire. You don't have to, because I personally, if I don't have to put on white breeches for another show, I'd rather go with the black ones, but yeah. Biddy's friend shows in Portuguese saddle and outfit. This is perfectly acceptable. Breed tag is acceptable. So Passo Fino rider would be perfectly fine in Passo Fino tag as long as the bidding was according to the rules. I'm not sure what you mean by, can you clarify what you mean, Judge didn't want us to mix tag from different disciplines? Yes, if you're riding in a Western saddle, you should not have an English bridle. However, you may use any bit allowed across from any style of tech. That's one of the only exception as of mixing textiles. Okay, and yes, Karen made a good note that presentation just went down in value. It used to be that presentation had its own mark on your score sheet. Now it's combined with a rider score. It's called rider and presentation, so it's half of a point possible. So I wouldn't be too upset as long as you within the rules. Important to know not to change tack, like from dressage saddle to close contact from trial to trial, because that is offense that will get you disqualified. But whether you're wearing a dressage coat or just long sleeve shirt, this is not as important. Now the levels, Sarah, will get to your question about trophy in a second. The levels are very progressive. So from walk trot, they're very close to dressage US levels. So intro would be roughly in the USDF, though it's a little more challenging. Level 2, novice A, is roughly training level because you will have canter work, but there are no lead changes of any kind. The next level up, you will change through trot, next level up through walk, and then you on to flying changes. Sarah asked what's included in the show fee for the, and that would be for our upcoming B-rated work and equitation show that will be held at the Hoosier Horse Fair and Expo in Nedville, May 2nd and 3rd. Show fee does include entry to the fair. The dressage days on Thursday, there are no admission fees that day because fair is not officially open. On Friday, the fair is open, so there are admission fees. The rider's admission fee is included. If you have somebody coming with you or your groom or somebody to support you, they will have to pay an admission fee. Stall sadly is not included. You may rent the stalls from the fair. I believe it's $75 per night. Comes pre-bedded with 2 bags of shavings, or you can show out of the trailer, and it's $25 per day tie-out fee. I hope that helps. All right. So a brief mention of the dressage. The sport is based on a traditional, in classical sense, dressage training, the one that progressively prepares the horse for more engagement, more collection, strengthens and hindquarters for more advanced work. Unlike traditional dressage, the goal is not to maximize the amplitude of the movement. The horse that flings his knees to his eyeballs in the field is not very useful and it's hard to ride. Not to say that big moving horses cannot compete. They can. As a matter of fact, it's a little more challenging for them because if a big moving warm blood that's, off the first level used to show in the large dressage arena suddenly has to do all the same movements in the small one, it could be difficult adjustment. But as my teacher says, small arenas make for supple horses. The rules are similar. There's no use of voice. You are allowed to carry dressage whip, regardless of style of tag, by the way. You can ride Western and carry a whip the same length as dressage whip in competition allowed, 47.2 inches. Not inches, centimeters. No, it is inches. It's 120 something centimeters. You don't have to carry in every trial. You may choose to take whip in your dressage and not take at the ease of handling. Some people carry it all the way through. So that's your choice. Now, ease of handling is also progressively built. There are obstacles that intro-level riders do not do. For example, they will not be asked to do side pass. They will not be asked to herd cattle. Let's see, they will not be asked to do water obstacle or the bank jump or rein back and L, all the high level maneuvers. And then as you move up the levels, the difficulty increases a little bit. For example, the jump obstacle is a good example. Right now at intro level in the children's, it's a ground ball between 2 standards, but it's just set on the ground. Then you move on to novice, it's a cross rail. And after that, it becomes a solid jump. Usually it's several bales of straw or hay connected side to side. The speed, that intimidates some people, some excites some who like to go fast, which is great. The beautiful thing about the speed trial is that you can go at your own speed. You do not have to go fast. As a matter of fact, with my big horse, sometimes we're much faster negotiating things at a trot than trying to make tight turn in the canter. The canter's not strong enough to do it quickly, so trot gets the job done. A lot of people, especially in the beginning, use the speed trial as the second practice of ease of handling. And oftentimes that gets you placed fairly well. People who go really fast and take a lot of risks sometimes end up getting a lot of penalties or even disqualified. And a beautiful thing in this sport that the most versatile horse is rewarded. So the horse who maybe was mediocre in all 3 trials but completed them all will place higher every time than a very outstanding performance, let's say dressage and ease of handling, but then they disqualified in speed. If you disqualified, you will always place below the riders who finished all 3 trials. Okay, let's see. Do you have any more questions? Speed is the best. It can be, yes. Speed is also your chance to try a higher level movement or transition if you're thinking about moving up. For example, if you're on the cusp of going from trot change to simple change or simple change to flying change, try it at speed. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work out. There are no penalties for this, and it gives you a sense if your horse can handle it in the real show situation. All right. Now, I want to briefly talk about the upcoming show again. Indiana's a little bit late to the work and equitation party. We have strong work and equitation community in Illinois, Wisconsin. There are things going on in Michigan. We're just getting started. So this B-rated show is going to be very first. It's May, so we have a couple months. I really would like you to encourage you to consider entering, even if it's work truck level. This sport is so new. The community is so supportive. We all in it together. We're all figuring it out with our horses. I have never seen more supportive community of horsemen and women than work in equitation. And everybody gets along no matter what background you came from, be it ranch riding, working horses, dressage, show jumping. We all play well together and we all grow together. Right now, the Indiana Work and Equitation Association is a brand new organization I just founded last December. We will be helping Hoosier Horse Fair to run it. They're hosting it, it's their show, but we're helping figure out volunteers, training, obstacles, and everything else that's needed for a show. If you are local, if you're in Indiana, and you're interested in hosting clinics, talks, let me know. I will put you in touch with clinicians. I will help you organize. If you're interested, I'm available for clinics and shows. But don't be afraid to take that first step. To be honest, you probably will find that scoring in working equitation could be a little low compared to other sports. And this is okay because the horses are held to a very high standard. As judges, we cannot allow less than good execution, reward less than honest performance in the dressage, less than correct bending, good engagement, because it all gets translated into the obstacle course. And if you kind of take in it, you get in trouble with your horse when, for example, one-handed riding in the sport is not required until last two levels, advanced and masters. However, even if you ride in a snap pull two-handed, one of the obstacles is garrocha, and very often horse designers will put obstacles between picking up the pole and putting it down. So you will be faced with riding a drawn pattern, which is similar to global leaf or figure eight or livestock pen, one-handed, not only one-handed, but while carrying 8 to 11.5 foot long pole. So while riding one-handed, adjusting your reins is allowed, it is physically impossible while you have a big stick in your hands. So your horse truly has to be through the back, on the seat, and on your aids for you to navigate the course safely. So this is a wonderful sport to point out any training holes you or your horse may have and help you start filling them, creating better, more solid partnership and developing trust as you present your horse to various obstacles. Let's see what else we have. Are there any pictures, description of the gate and bridge so I can build them at home to practice? There are multiple pictures if you look for them. The requirements, they're not requirements, they're recommendations for the bridge is to be a minimum of 5 foot wide, 13 feet long, and 8 inches high. The bridge does not have to be arched or angled. It may just be straight raised platform. That is perfectly fine. If you're building your own, keep in mind that the horses and speed may have to negotiate at a high rate of speed, so it has to be sturdy. When Oklahoma Working Equitation was building their bridge, they knew my horse had to go over it, so it's a very beefy one. They're often built in modules if they have the angled ends on either side, so those usually come off for ease of transportation and repositioning. The side rails are not required. if you are using them, the requirement is that you should be able to take the side rails off without any use of any tools. In case of wreck, so you can quickly disassemble it. And side rails should be between 3 and 4 feet tall. The gate, usually you will find just a jump standard. The minimum distance between the standards is 6.5 feet, could be a little wider. Rope gate is what's usually found at A-rated show. You must have a solid gate. The difficulty in construction with the gate is that the support of the regular jump standards gets in the way of opening and closing the gate. So there are some creative designs when the supports are designed as a T with a single point towards the gate itself and the 2-point away from the gate. The height requirement, the top where the rope would attach, or the top of the gate, is minimum 4 feet 3 inches. Does that help? And if you're practicing at home, the gate, do practice both ways, going forward and backward. And that's a tricky one, especially for people who ride in other disciplines that use gates, because they allow to switch hands. In working equitation, you may not switch hand that you use on obstacle. So if you picked up the rocha with your right hand, when you present it with the gate, you would approach with your right side to the gate to open it. However, gate is one of the obstacles that can be put on the course twice and approach from 2 different directions. So if I'm approaching from one side and it's a forward gate with my right hand to it, to negotiate the opposite approach, my right hand on the latch will make my horse back through it. I actually quite like this idea. It's more challenging to do, but it's also fair to left-handed riders, because if there's only single gate set up as a forward gate for right-handed riders, lefties have to back. So if you do it twice, everybody suffers equally. All right. Thank you, Karen, for introducing me, but I'll do a brief introduction again. My name is Lydia Taylor. I'm new to Indiana. I recently moved from Oklahoma. That's where I got my start with work in equitation in about 2016. I'm currently Confederation for Work in Equitation Technical Delegate and L Judge. I do show as well with my shy cross. My general horsemanship background, everything from draft horses in harness and hitch shows, farm shows in hand, to traditional dressage. I am a riding instructor. My forte is work with riders on basics of dressage, correct timing of the aids, application of the aids, all this good stuff. Hope that helps. Please feel free to ask any more questions. Hello, William. All right. Good. So Sarah mentioned that they're just working on some standard pipe gates this week. This helps. This sport often opens your eyes to how much more your horse is capable of. If it's safe, obviously if it's safe to do so, if the arena gates are big enough, work so you're able to go through the gates mounted. Negotiate obstacles, walk over things without dismounting. It's funny because it is in the rule book that the obstacles must be negotiated without getting off your horse, because in the early days that was the case. The horse would refuse to, let's say, go on the bridge, and the rider would get off and lead him through it. It's challenging in the most wonderful way in building trust and understanding in a true partnership with your horse. And you'd be surprised how well most horses take to it. It's the riders that are often nervous. I teach a lot of introduction to work in equitation clinics, and when we introduce the Gorocha, the riders often worry, but the horses trust. They just go with the flow, and usually it's the trail riders, the people who used to taking their horses out and about and carry all kinds of loads. They just progress like that's what they've been doing their whole lives. Victoria. Victoria is head of the Hoosier Horse Fair and Expo, and she's also responsible for the Oktoberfest Horse Show, where, by the way, that's going to be our second rated working equitation show in October. Is it then? Where's the location of Victoria? I believe it's at the Horse Park, Indianapolis. We'll post more information. Now, an important point for the riders to look for more information about the sport, and I will post it in the comments later. The rule book is available for download on confederationwe.us, the full rule book, and it's a wonderful, wonderful rule book that has a lot of tools that help the rider. Yeah, I know you're going to see it in mirror image, so it's not very helpful, but if you can see, this is this way, a table. Actually, no, you can see it quite well. That outlines obstacle requirements. It breaks them down by level, tells you what gate to use. Sometimes there's an option, what levels, what obstacles are used, and what not. And what I do actually, the rule book gets updated right now about twice a year. Is when the new edition comes out, I simply print the page and laminate it and take it with you to the show to make sure that you know what your option is, if you have an option for the obstacle. Also on the website, you will find, besides the rule book, there's an appendix with description of all obstacles, with measurements, correct execution, what judges are looking for, what levels perform what variation. All the dressage tests are there. The list of all officials, the judges and technical delegates as well. It's a rather helpful website. Now, in order to show a rated show, you must be a member of Confederation in one or two ways. You can either be a member of a local group member, which Indiana Working Equitation Association is, and our membership is $25 a year. Or you can join Confederation directly, which is a $60 membership fee for a year. And if you join Confederation directly, you will be eligible for the Rider Awards. And the beautiful thing is that Confederation keeps track of all your points, of all your achievements automatically. There are no forms to file, no additional fees to enroll in the program. You just pay your membership, the show will submit all the results to Confederation, and they're very good at publishing their rated standings of the riders across all regions. When the show is in full swing, those updates come very, very often. So that's kind of, you do have to register your horse, which is $20 one-time fee, and it's lifetime registration. So they have them on file. Let's talk about horses a little bit. I often ask if somebody could ride more than one level with a horse. One horse and rider considered a pair once they registered. They may only show once at the show. The horse can go twice if the second ride is a different rider at a different level. The working equitation is one of the few sports in this country who has minimum age limit for horses to participate. The youngest the horse can show is 4 years old. And we go by the thoroughbred rules, so the year after your horse is born, January 1st, he'll be considered a year old. The show season starts in December, so if your horse would be considered in January, he can show in December shows as a 4-year-old. Starting at intermediate level, the minimum age is 5 years old, and for the two highest level, advanced and masters, it's 6 years old. Scrolling. Okay, show question. There are two horses, and Sarah's not sure which one to bring. If she signs one up, would it be possible to switch closer to the date? I would say yes. In the bigger show, well-established show, probably not, unless you're planning to show in the same level. Since we're new, we'll make it work, Sarah. We'll make it work. Okay, in the Oktoberfest charity show is at the Hoosier Horse Park in Edinburgh, Indiana. Okay. Biddy, thank you for sharing the link. Okay, no, I gave Victoria an extra title she didn't need. Okay, and speaking of the Hoosier Horse Fair, after the show, so dressage is going to be on Thursday, most likely in the afternoon. We don't have the schedule yet. I will keep it posted both on the event page and on the Indiana working page. The ease of handling will be on Friday, ease of handling and speed. Dressage is going to be in the covered arena. Ease of handling and speed will be in the large grandstand arena, which is an outdoor arena. Our judge is going to be Taryn Warren, who's an S judge and current executive director of the Confederation for Work and Equitation. It so happened that my first lessons were with Taryn and first shows with Taryn. So I'm looking forward to working with her. I'm TDing that show. But then Taryn will stay for the rest of the fair to do clinics and demos. And I'm pretty sure Confederation will have a booth. And I will be around too. So if you're welcome to stop by and chat, and I'll have the membership forms for the IREA, and we'll get connected there. I need the volunteers. I have a few people signed up. If you would consider working at the show, and if you donate your time, I will be happy to extend free membership to Indiana Work and Equitation Association to express our thanks, because it's such a new sport. So hard to explain to people what exactly we need. And we need scribes. In the dressage, it's a traditional scribe that sits next to the judge. For ease of handling, it's a little harder job because you'll be on your feet next to the judge in the middle of the arena for the whole day. We need scorers, score runners, ground crew to help reset obstacles on Friday, and somebody to help with secretary duties, printing scores, maps. So if you're interested, please let me know, and I will forward you the volunteer sign-up form, which is also available at the event Facebook page. I will also post that down there. All right. Taryn rocks, yes, she does. Do we have any questions? Oh, about upcoming events. I think this is a good general overview. Let me know if there's interest to do maybe next week, in a couple of weeks, another talk, and talk more in depth about each trial. Let's say we'll have one day talk about dressage and another day talk about ease of handling and speed, if there's any interest to continue those talks. I am working on a clinic probably closer to me. I'm in Valparaiso, so probably somewhere Porter County, LaPorte, clinic in the end of April. We might have another clinic closer to Indianapolis. Not much going on, so there's much more. If you want to check out Great Lakes region of Work and Equitation, that's our region for Confederation. Have quite a few things going on in Illinois at Karmic Acres, the Woodstock, I believe, right here. Wisconsin has some shows planned. We'll catch up. Indiana riders, I'm sure we'll make this whole thing a success. All right, before I close out, do you have any last minute questions? You know what I forgot to address? I had a question that Carrie left me. She unfortunately had a work meeting. She couldn't join us today. And one of them we answered, where to find the rules, which will be Confederation for confederationwe.us. Local instructors and clinics. As far as I know, locally in Indiana, I'm the only one right now. If I'm wrong, please feel free to post in the comments other local instructors who work with Work and Equitation contact information. But I know great many instructors from very diverse backgrounds that I'll be happy to put you in touch with if that's what you're looking for. and I did cover different levels and what is asked. Brief note on that even with starting with the intro level, we ask a little more of the horse, just because even at the intro level, he's going to be presented at the obstacle course. So even at the intro level, you expect a degree of engagement, the horse to be on your aids, because remember, as I mentioned, even at intro level, you may be asked to perform an obstacle with a garrocha in hand, one-handed at the trot. So this is a time to work on the basics that will take you, really improve any other discipline and any other type of riding that you're doing. Let's see. Can you volunteer if you are competing? Generally speaking, no, because that creates a conflict of interest. At the schooling show, yes. At the rated show, it's going to be difficult to do. The only thing I can think of is that if you're riding intro level and you don't have the speed trial, we'll be very grateful you stuck around and helped to work as a ground crew for the speed event for riders who do have the speed trial. That's the only position I can think of that will not cause any trouble in the rated show. You're very welcome, Eddie. I'm very excited about the sport growing so fast because it's an awesome sport. I second Karen's recommendation to use licensed judges and technical delegates to learn from. Unfortunately, as is the case with any rapidly growing discipline, there are a lot of people who jump on the bandwagon without bothering as much as reading a national rule book. And unfortunately, that causes a lot of heartbreak for the riders who take a clinic or 2 or 3, they even ride in the show, then they go to a recognized show and get disqualified immediately because the person who taught them just simply was not aware or did not bother educating themselves about the sport, the way it's practiced in this country. I literally know stories of people teaching clinics, charging people money on the basis of watching some YouTube videos. So I do not recommend it because most of YouTube videos are European and our rules are different and levels are different. All right, so thank you everybody very much. If you're watching in replay, please let me know. If you come up with more questions, send them in. I will post my my business page too, so you can get connected easier. And looks like maybe there's enough demand to do it, let's say, next week. Think of your questions, send them in. Use the confederation we.us for as a source of information. This is the rule book that works for the whole country. This is the most up-to-date version, most up-to-date tests. So this wonderful free resource. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you at the show soon.